Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second annual Global Goddess Fest, a week-long virtual festival to inspire, activate, and connect female leaders, entrepreneurs, and creatives worldwide. So today we have Catie Fenn on, and just super excited to have this chick. We were in communication and have a mutual friend that was so dedicated to making sure that Catie and I got connected. So it was fun because, in life and there's all these things coming up and she's traveling and I'm traveling, and it was like, no, this must happen. So whoever is watching, you're about to experience magic unfold. So Catie is tuning in from Toronto, Canada, and just so happy to have you here. Thanks for joining.
Me too. So excited. Our timing finally aligned,
As it always does
as it always does.
in the divine time. And so everyone that's watching, to give you a little background on Catie, she is a soul coach, speaker, and a lawyer. So Catie is just this modern priestess and lawyer that guides women to reconnect with their souls, become their most vibrant and courageous selves, and really live life on their own terms. So she leads transformational retreats around the world. We were just talking about some that she was leading before we started recording. So in Costa Rica, in the jungles, she just recently led one in the city in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so all over. She's probably going to be starting to do some stuff in New York, so stay tuned. And she brings women together to gather, reflect, reconnect with the earth, and support one another to rise into their most full potential. So she regularly speaks about redefining what does this success look like? What does it look like to rise in feminine leadership, and how to really get aligned on your soul journey. So just super excited to have Catie here. She's very aligned with what we're doing here at the Global Goddess Fest. And yeah, thanks for joining.
Yay, me too. Excited to get in.
Yeah, awesome. So I would love to just start by, have you always been connected with spirit, like your whole life, or was there like a moment where you kind of like took a shift? I'm really curious about this mix of being a lawyer and then having this like spiritual business. So how does this all come together?
So when I was growing up, I wasn't spiritual at all. I wasn't raised with any type of spirituality in my life. I wasn't raised religious. I wasn't raised in any type of new age family whatsoever. But I was always really drawn to it. And more specifically, I was always really drawn to yoga. So that was kind of my first gateway into connecting with something that was bigger than me. I first did yoga when I was a teenager, immediately fell in love with it. Like just instantly felt so good, so at home when I did it. And for a long time, that was how I was connecting with myself, with spirit, and with who I was. And so all throughout university, college, I was obsessed with yoga, doing it all the time. Had some meditation through that. That was kind of like my grounding. And then when I started law school, I completely lost touch with it. And even when I was in college, there was one summer where I was really starting to dive deep into spirituality. And I came home and I basically lived in a sorority house. And the other girls were like, "What is up with you? Like, get your crystals out of here. Get your motivational quotes off the wall. Like, you've gone off the deep end." And so I actually then, like, I started to come out of the spiritual closet and then firmly went back into it and was like, okay, well, my friends think that I'm crazy now. So then I completely disowned it. Then even when I started law school, I also just kind of let go of yoga. And then it was only when I first started practicing that I was just feeling so overwhelmed. I was feeling so out of alignment and so unlike myself that I turned back to yoga as a way to kind of ground myself once again. And from that, I started meditating. And for me, meditation became the catalyst for every other thing. Like meditation at that point basically just cracked open my entire mind and heart, and never looked back, basically.
Ooh, I love it. I think so many women can relate to that feeling of just like, I'm feeling this calling and my surroundings are not aligned, and they're not sometimes it can be, similar to yours, where it's like your surroundings are literally saying like, what the heck, like get this out of here. Or it could even just be a surrounding where it's just like, whatever. And so I believe, environment really does change and shift our energy and our ability to like dive into consciousness and into spirit. And so what would you say has been like how did you shift out of that?
So what it was really organic and it was sequential. And I think that that's one thing for a lot of people that sometimes I think they struggle with. And a lot of what I'm hoping to now always help women do is kind of to like dip their toes into what does it mean to connect with your soul? What is spirit? What does it mean to bring that into your life? And little by little to make these shifts other than just like kind of jumping off the deep end, diving into everything and not being able to really ground any of the practices or have them in your life. So for me, everything kind of started slowly. Like, even when it came first to my environment and the people around me, I just started to slowly align away from the people who were judging me basically for the things that I was thinking, the things that I was feeling. And for me starting to just get honest with myself and others of like, hey, I don't know really if this is the path for me. Other people would be like, you're insane. You're this successful lawyer. Like, why would you ever, like, what's wrong with you? And started to align with the people that I would meet along the way who were actually super into the same thing. So I started to meet more soul sisters and I just started to, put my effort there and started to put my energy toward connecting with them. Similarly, when it came to me eventually transitioning from my law practice into a spiritual business and what I believe is more of my soul's purpose, was little, started really small. I was really in love with meditation. I said, wow, lawyers, professionals, these people that think that this is so out there could really benefit from this tool. I'm going to start to teach them. That then led to coaching, that then led to retreats, that led to goddess circles. So everything always just flowed little by little. And so it was like these tiny steps over time to align with who I really was and what I love to do, and shifting away from the things that that weren't lighting me up anymore, that eventually I like fully, dove into a fully aligned sort of spirit life.
Yeah, I love that. And I think there's some key nuggets that I just want to highlight in there for anyone that's watching is that, okay, so there's this ability to step into the flow, to see kind of where your heart is calling you, what is bringing you the most joy. And then the second part of that is like, because I think sometimes we get stuck on that. It's like, wait, I'm not receiving what I want, or like I'm getting little hints, but that's not my life. It's just, it's like taunting me or teasing me sort of thing. So I think there's a thing that I want to highlight is also you taking those decisions, even if you think that even if they felt like small, like kind of organic decisions where you're like, oh, instead of going to like a party with all of these lawyers, I'm going to go do a goddess full moon circle, whatever those like little decisions were. It was making those little decisions based off of really what was your soul purpose. And that is kind of how you could get onto your path. Would you like agree with that?
Totally. And I think that feeling good, like that to me is also the feminine way of doing things, as opposed to being like, okay, because I had done that so many times before, the more linear model of like, I'm going to have the vision, I'm going to take these steps to get it. And I had achieved a lot in my life in doing that. And I was like, well, I'm over this model. Like I want to live in flow. I just want to follow what feels good. And so a lot of it was these little actions, but it's true. I'm like, well, what would just feel so good right now? Would it feel better for me to hang out with these people or these people? Would it feel good and kind of an edge for me to start to share meditation with people? Okay, I'm going to follow that. So I was always taking, action on it, but it was always such okay, what's going to feel really good for me in this moment? And as a result, it's just always felt so good and so easy and so in flow.
Mm-hmm. And you talk about, helping your clients and the women that you work with step into their courage. And so while you were in your transition with all of this, like, were there times, what was that like? Were there times where you were like, I feel like I should be doing something else, but, or times where you're like, just not sure of what decision to make?
I think that a lot of what I see women struggle with and what I had struggled with is that we're kind of in this new era where we can where we can see a vision maybe and get clarity on that and connect inward, but we just don't know the steps to get there, and we don't have a lot of other people that are modeling it. And so I think that that is really scary, to be like, okay, yeah, I'm going to deviate from this normal path that I'm on. And particularly in my case, it's a lawyer. It's like the most, kind of stable, secure path there is. I'm like, you know what I'm going to do is just create this new one where I'll be leading retreats and teaching goddess circles and coaching. And like, there were no examples at the time that I could put together because it was my own soul's path. And I think that for all of us, we each have a unique thing that we're supposed to do. It might have little glimmers of what other people are doing, but I think it's really scary when you only have kind of the edges of what your vision is or where you might be going, and you don't have all the steps to get there. Like, we're all designed to want to have these linear steps of like, you do A, B, C, and D, and it's going to lead to E. And I think that that's where a lot of people get scared, is like, oh, am I really going to give up this like stable, secure, certain life that I have to jump into this uncertainty and to really have to carve out my own path when like, I don't know really the steps to get there. And I think that for me, that was a big thing of like, I, for a long time was stuck because I had a vision of what I wanted to do, if not, what I would be. And I just like, I didn't know the steps to get there. And I was really, really stuck on it. And then I just had a mentor say to me, well, what would feel good right now? Just do that. And I was like, oh, right. I could just like do one tiny thing, because I was waiting to have 17 steps before I moved into it. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that. And then also, like, once you do start making the moves, at the point that you start sharing, or you start, aligning more with who you really are, and you're at least taking action and kind of just blindly putting one foot in front of the other, it's really, it's not normal to do that. Like, as much as we can be in these communities of people who are really forging our own path, like, we're really trailblazers, all of us, of being like, I'm actually going to step away from the status quo, and I'm going to boldly and unapologetically build out my own soul's path. And to try and explain that to people is just, it's not going to, like, they're just not going to understand. And so you just have to do it. And I think that takes a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And so anyone that's watching, you're not normal. We're calling you out right now. You're not in the closet here. So even if you haven't fully claimed your path, or if you are on your path but you're not sure about what those next steps are, we see you, we feel you, and you're totally welcome here in that close-eyed
like, where am I going?
Yeah. And that reminds me of it was about 2 years ago where I was really starting to make a decision to like step fully into this work. And I had read a little thing that said, if you see every step of the way in your future that will get you to your goal, then that's not your goal. That's someone else's goal, and you're just following someone else's life. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that, because I was on this goal to be like a rock star. I was like, yeah, I just want, like, my band is touring nationally. I'm like, yeah, I want to just play bigger, better shows and be sending a positive message. And then I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, literally the next 50 years of my life is like completely mapped out. Like, I'm following exactly this roadmap. And I was like, wait, but what about like these other pieces of me that aren't a part of that? Totally. And I think so many women, like, you're a great example of a lawyer. Like, so many people would be like, you have everything. Why would you switch? And also in that stability, it's that same feeling that someone that has a 9-to-5 job at the discount store down the street is still feeling that same sort of security. But I know where to go. I know what time to be there. I know how much money I'm going to make. I know how much money I need to save. It's like all the same equations. So wherever you're at, again, for the viewers, like, you don't have to be a lawyer that's like, oh, I'm breaking out of the mold. Like, you could break out of any mold that you're currently in to discover what else is possible.
Mm-hmm. And to remember that, like, I always think about this for people too, because I've had a lot of people think, oh, okay, well, you're either on a conventional path or you're not. You're on a soul journey or you're not. And even for me, like, it's just, I always think of us, we just have, especially as women, we have so many dynamic sides of us, and a lot of what we just want to do. And I just heard you say too, like, well, I love music, but like, what about all these other sides of me? And I think that what all of us really desire is just to fully express all sides. And so as you're thinking about, like, the different things, it doesn't mean, that you're leaving one aspect of you and you're abandoning it for another. Like, it's just been really interesting for me. The second that I let go of my law practice for my spiritual business full time, I'm still doing law because I love it. Like, I'm doing, but now it looks like in a pro bono capacity, and it's, 4% of my time, and it's, for no income. And so it's just like all of us have these different sides, and it's all about just figuring out what side of you wants to be expressed the most right now, and to not think that you're either going to be on this conventional path or you're going to be on this kind of like completely uncertain, unknown, crazy path. It's just that you decide for you what do you want it to look like.
Totally. And that's where spirit can come in too, is like just stepping into that trust and that really vulnerable space of like, all right, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to put my foot down on this like stone that I don't even know is there, and then see what happens next. And I love the creativity that we can bring into play as well. So like using your life as an example is like, okay, well, how can you actually bring in this side of law into what you're doing? So I wouldn't be surprised if some women that were coming to your retreats are lawyers, and you get to relate to them and understand where they're coming from. And so we get to be super creative. It's awesome. And I honor your work for doing that and stepping into the unknown.
Thank you. Yeah, right off the cliff.
Yeah. It's the only way. So what would you say to any women that are watching that maybe are like thinking about some sort of transition or thinking about getting a coach or joining a program or something? What would you say to them?
I think the first thing is that women rise together, 100%. So many of the things that I was able to do and the courage that I was able to cultivate is because I had women around me who were starting to pull me forward, who were maybe who were 4 or 5 steps ahead of me, and were able then to guide me and support me and just encourage me to share my voice a little bit more, and to step into my power a little bit more. So I'd say if you're feeling that nudge, tug, to go to a retreat or to reach out to someone as a coach, or to go, or just you're in the coffee shop and you see this girl and you're like, gosh, she's so cool, like follow those little nudges, because remembering that really in order, it can be scary to really own who you are. It can be really scary to kind of first start to delve into this stuff. And so as women, we're meant to support and connect and help rise with one another. So that'd be the first thing. Just definitely really follow those nudges in order to connect with different communities of women. And the other thing that I would say is that for you to not try and define right away what it is, your job is, or define what it's going to look like. I've been seeing a lot of people lately being like, okay, well, I think, I'm really interested in health and wellness, so therefore I'm going to become a wellness coach. Or I'm really interested in this, and therefore that means this is the path that I'm on. Kind of like we talked about earlier, like, I think of it as like your umbrella of you, and just under the umbrella of you, put these little, I call them like the puzzle pieces. Like, just put the puzzle pieces of the things that you're getting nudged at, like, hey, wouldn't that be so awesome? Like, wouldn't it be so awesome if one day I was able to speak and I was also able to do maybe some like one-on-one work in terms of nutrition and stuff, and, healing the body, but then I was also able to maybe do this, this, and this. Just take your little puzzle pieces and don't try and like put it under the name of a job. It's just you in your fullest expression. That's what it is. And because I think a lot of the time people start to get stuck when they're thinking about their transition, because they're looking for something specific, or they're looking to call it something. And it's your path. So you can't call it really anything yet until you figured it out, and you'll, define that for you. So just think of this umbrella within, literally, like, you can write it out. I get clients to do this all the time. Like, just create this umbrella and let's just put the puzzle pieces of the things that you're feeling like would just be so amazing to do. And you'll kind of like, eventually the puzzle pieces will come together. And then your next step is just to think, what would just be so fun of all these puzzle pieces that I've got right now that I think would be amazing? Which one am I feeling most called to deepen into and explore right now, or maybe take some steps toward, and then just do that. And then the other puzzle, they'll all eventually just come together. But to not try and define it, I think that a lot of people get really stuck on that. So just be in your umbrella and know that, like, you'll be protected if you're in your umbrella. Like, like, that's the other thing. You can draw you underneath the umbrella. whatever it is.
I love that. Yeah, definitely do that. If you're watching this, do it. If you're curious about a transition, if you're not even curious, but you're just like, these women seem interesting, then do it.
People.
Whatever brought you here, there's a reason. So, is there any last words that you'd like to share with the viewers before we close?
Yeah. The only last thing that I love to remind people is, who were you before everyone else told you who you had to be? And just start to contemplate that question. Yeah, who am I before anyone else tells me who to be? Or who was I before anyone else told me who to be? To really start to unpack that, and that's where you'll discover who you really are.
So true. Yeah, sit and meditate with that, journal it. That's a really powerful question. Well, so everyone that's watching, Catie is giving you all a free gift of a soul map, a guide to happiness and clarity. And so you can see and hear through her journey of how she's discovered her way, is still discovering all the gifts that she can offer. It's an amazing tool to use, so definitely encourage you all to download it and dive in. The link will be right below this video. And yeah, just use the resources, use the questions, get in, use the umbrella. This is all free for you. We want to see you rise. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Catie. It was so lovely to connect with you, and we'll see you all soon.
Perfect.